Hey everyone, this is Julie. Welcome back to Fearless Funnels. This is a decision support podcast for people that are trying to evaluate if FG Funnels is right for them. Today, I want to tackle this question. Okay, I understand that FG Funnels replaces pretty much everything, but I want to keep and most often people say, I want to keep my website, right? My Wix site, my Squarespace site, my Showit site, my WordPress site. I really like it. I bought a template from Squarespace. I love Showit. Showit is so beautiful. I want to keep that. Can I actually keep that asset and still use FG funnels? I want to tackle this today. The good news, the answer is yes, absolutely, 1000%, and many people do. And I'm going to tackle the I want to keep my website, but I will at the end of this episode talk a little bit if you want to keep something else that's not a website. Let's talk about websites for a second. Now, here is a case in which you might want to keep a website. You have a WordPress site, you've had it for a long time, it's got good SEO, and you don't want to ruin a good thing. That would be a reason to keep your WordPress site. WordPress isn't super expensive, and if you've got things going, why not? If you're just getting started, WordPress is not the right move because it's more complex than other builders. And also, you've got to find a host and you've got to manage, security and all that kind of stuff. Another reason you might want to keep your website is that you absolutely love the theme, and this is very common on Squarespace and Showit. Both of these tools have beautiful themes that are pretty easy to use, especially creatives. They absolutely love them and they want to keep it. A third reason why you might want to keep your website is if you have like a Shopify and you've spent time and money and energy building that Shopify and you really like it. Those would be reasons to say, yeah, sure, keep your website. If you have a Wix website, I recommend that you suck it up and you move to FG Funnels. There's not a whole lot of reason that you should keep Wix over FG Funnels. And honestly, the reason that people keep their websites usually has to do with design, aesthetic, or SEO. Those are the two main reasons. If you're not absolutely in love with your website, and you are not like dealing with a website that has tremendous SEO and you don't want to break things, you can move to FG Funnels and save yourself a whole bunch of money. But I'm just giving you reasons why you might want to keep your website. So how do FG Funnels and websites interact? Well, if you think about a website as like a bunch of information, there are key points on your website where people are putting in information. Opt-in forms, if they're downloading lead magnets, contact forms, if they're booking a call on your calendar. Sometimes you even have those little widgets at the bottom of the screen that say, hey, do you have a question? Do you want to talk to a real person? Any point at which a customer is interacting with the website, whether they're putting contact information in, booking a call, or even purchasing something, you want to use an FG Funnels code there instead of whatever plugin is available. And depending on whether you're on Squarespace, Showit, or WordPress, you'll have different plugins. So you just want to take those plugins out and you want to pop in the code that comes with FG Funnels. And when I say code, I don't mean that you actually have to write code. What you do is you go into FG Funnels, you find your little web chat, form or your quiz or what have you, and you grab the little code that it generates and you pop it into your website. And what this does is it makes it very clean. There's no need for any duct tape or Zapier or anything like that, where all that customer data is coming into FG Funnels, where you can use it for things like email marketing and texting and all of that sort of thing, but maintaining the SEO or design of the site that you have. And the beautiful part about FG Funnels is that if you ever want to add funnels or pages to your website that look like your website but are actually FG Funnels pages, you can do that. You just have to grab the design aesthetic you're trying to mimic. In fact, if you go to my site, juliechanel.com, that is a very old WordPress site. But if you click on the menu item that says Digital Insiders, that actually is an FG Funnels page. So you can see how seamless it is. And if you're not paying attention, you wouldn't even know. Now, some of you might say, okay, I don't really have a website or I don't care about my website, but I want to keep and a very common one is Flowdesk. People say, I want to keep Flowdesk. And we actually built a little integration tool for Flowdesk because we had a lot of people that just liked the design aesthetic of Flowdesk. And we understand, can you design emails in FG Funnels? Absolutely. Does it have the same aesthetic as Flowdesk? Not exactly. And I'm thinking of one client in particular who wanted this. So we built the integration for all of our users. So if you want to integrate with Flowdesk, we have a straight up integration, no big deal. But so we gave it to her. And then she was like really bummed because the deliverability on Flowdesk isn't fantastic. You don't have as much control over things like your SMTP and your domain and all of that when you're in Flowdesk. And ironically, those beautiful templates sometimes actually have poor deliverability. And so after doing that, she's like, you know what? I realized I think I actually need to do email marketing right inside of FG Funnels. And so she ended up giving up. But there are times when like Flowdesk or maybe Kit or things like that. Like Kit, for example, has an entire network of creators. And so if you're running a newsletter, let's say, and you're really benefiting from the creator network, that would be a reason to like say, okay, I'm going to keep my Kit and I'm going to integrate them because, again, you can integrate them. FG Funnels has an open API. And then I'm going to use all the other tools. Now, when people do this with email service providers, especially, they get a little confused. They're like, well, wait, where's my actual email list? And that is important to note because of the laws of like subscribe and unsubscribe. You do need the two systems to talk to each other. Now, we have this going on at our company, Funnel Gorgeous. We like to develop relationships with other software companies for a lot of reasons. One of those reasons being, we often get to be featured on their site or we get asked to speak at their events, and that's really good for our business. So we kind of maintain relationships. We have a Kit account and we have a Teachable account, even though FG Funnels can replace Kit and Teachable both. And we get this question all the time. Like, hey, I noticed some of your courses are on Teachable. Hey, I noticed this email came from Kit. You're the owners of FG Funnels. Why wouldn't you use FG Funnels? And we say, we do. Every single automation that fires in our company is an FG Funnels automation. What we still use Kit for is our newsletter. And that's just because we've been around forever. And so we continue to do the newsletter there and it publishes on that network over there. But we have to make sure that when people unsubscribe from the newsletter, they're also being unsubbed from our FG Funnels list and vice versa. And that usually requires a Zap, which if you know what Zapier is, but we maintain that. Another example is when people say, but I want to keep my Teachable account or I want to keep my Memberium or what have you. Again, if there is a reason that it makes sense to keep that, the two tools can absolutely talk to each other. Take, for example, Teachable. We still have Teachable. We get put in front of their audience on a regular basis, and we love Teachable. We love the relationship with them. And we had a Teachable account years before FG Funnels ever existed. And everything new that we're doing is going into FG Funnels. And we are in the process of slowly migrating. We didn't want to disrupt 25,000 customers. And again, this is another reason why picking your tool at the beginning is way less expensive than what we do now, because we pay almost $4,000 a year on Teachable when we could very easily do it in FG Funnels. So we are actively losing money. And that's one of those reasons that I try to drive home. It's so hard for people to understand why I'm saying, hey, it's never going to be cheaper than today because of this situation. But we are actively moving everything into FG Funnels, but it's happening very, very slowly. And we like to maintain those great relationships with Teachable for visibility purposes. So we have been kind of slow to move because why ruin a good thing? We're also making a considerable amount of money. And so you'll notice, like if you join our Metrics Muse, it's all FG Funnels. We're about to move another one of our big programs into FG Funnels, and it's just taking a long time. However, it's a great lesson here for anyone who is saying, but I want to keep, and then answer the question however you want. Absolutely. And in fact, we recommend when you sign up for FG Funnels that you don't delete everything else in a frantic attempt to save money, because you might end up realizing, oh, I like that tool with FG Funnels. Or actually, you know what? I actually don't need this anymore because I really like FG funnels. And that happens over time and as you get to know the tool. So take your time, know that that cost savings will come when you make that decision, but FG funnels plays very nicely with lots of other tools.